Welcome to the Coach Debbie Potts Show, where high performers learn how to stop guessing and start aging stronger, not slower. Your host is Coach Debbie Potts, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, metabolic health coach, and host of this show. Here, we dive into the why behind fatigue, stubborn weight, hormone chaos, gut issues, and declining performance. Using real data, functional lab testing, metabolism analysis, and simple daily habits that actually move the needle. Whether you're an endurance athlete, an executive, or simply committed to becoming your strongest future you, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
If you are a high performer, chances you have lived life as myself as a race. You're always moving, you're always producing, you're always operating at full capacity. And for a long time, that worked for you. But somewhere in middle age, the systems starts to feel heavy. You are still doing the work, you're still training, you're still optimizing, but instead of feeling powerful, you start to feel more inflamed, more reactive, more fatigued, fragile. The problem isn't your effort. I'm finding out as I work with different clients with different goals and history and timelines and functional lab test results, but I'm finding a common theme. High performers in middle age and the connection to flow, or really it's the lack of it. And I want to talk you about what I'm creating based on my own curiosity and root cause correlations, picking up clues, putting the missing pieces of puzzles together for each individual. The Flow Foundation is a method I am using to help high performers rebuild their capacity at a cellular level. So they don't just age, but they adapt. My goal is to help you be fit and healthy, not just on the outside. We already do that. But as we are competitive age group athletes or middle-aged high performers, ex-endurance athletes as myself who still love to train and not race, but are we doing more damage than good from the inside? And this is what happened to me back in 2013. I was competing at a high level in my mind. I was trying to win my age group in Ironman races, half Ironmans, different races for cycling and events, cycling events, running, marathons, half marathons. But my systems got overloaded and I was past my full capacity. And what happened to me starting in 2013, and now it's 2026, I'm finally figuring this out. I don't want you to miss out on all those red flags on how we can avoid metabolic chaos in advance instead of getting to the point that we needed to really figure out the root cause of why you have this metabolic chaos and help restore to metabolic harmony. I want you to be a health optimizer and pay attention to those little clues your body tells you. So let's talk about flow. I'm not talking about how fast flow is in your body, speed. I'm not talking about more blood flow, more detoxification, more sweat, more output. But biologically, what I'm figuring out is that flow means movement with clearance. And a healthy body behaves as clean and flowing river. Now that little sound was my flex beam. I have it around my knee because my back of my knee, lymph, pulpiteal, something's going on. So I'm going to set it up for level 1. One more set. I've done level 3. Now I'm doing level 2 and then 1. Okay, so reset my red light. So this is around my knee. All right, that's my flex beam you'll hear in the background. What I want us to focus on, creating this fit and healthy body as we age from the inside out. Just because you exercise and you eat clean, whatever that might be for you, what you do with your sleep and your stress and the type of exercise you do can create congestion. And what I'm wanting you to understand is how a healthy body from the inside out should be similar to a clean, flowing river. The body should move freely. The lymph should be draining waste out. Bile should carry the toxins out. And we should have the stool or poop regularly at least once a day to carry those toxins out of the body and not recirculate them. We need nutrients to reach the cells, not just be around the cell, but get into the cell. And we need the signals to move without resistance. But if you are unhealthy from the inside out, you may look good, you might be lean, you might be strong, you might be able to do triathlons or whatever events you like to do, but you're swamp inside. Your lymph is stagnant. You have thick bile. You have sluggish blood flow, and inflammatory debris is getting trapped in your tissues. And here's the key distinction. You don't fix a swamp by dumping more water in it, do you? You fix it by clearing the channels. This is what I'm figuring out, and I should keep this to myself and not publicly share this information, but this is what I'm doing with clients, working on the Future You Blueprint and starting with this flow foundation. It's not a detox program. It's a protocol, and it depends on each individual. I run the functional lab tests. I do nutritional therapy, signs and symptoms analysis. I do a food log, a mood log that tracks everything for at least 5 days, and we're going to do a deep dive in your timeline, your health history. So it's an order of operations what I'm looking at. And flow is really looking at 4 phases. Flow to free the nervous system. Lymph, fascia, and drainage. We're working the oxygen, blood sugar, mitochondria. We're working on waste removal, the bile, the liver, and the gut connection. Each step we go through together builds capacity, not pressure. And each step must happen in order. And this is where I think a lot of programs, and I didn't learn this from any program, I learned this from my own experience with my clients, is that most programs just start doing everything at once. And we start taking hormones and start trying to do all this stuff all at once. And it doesn't work. So I've seen so many people backfire. They just can't figure out what's wrong with them and why they feel worse before they get better. So what I've determined is that we need to create the foundation. If you're remodeling a house, you don't just start fixing the roof. You want to work on rebuilding from the inside and one layer at a time. Build the foundation up. If you have mold in your house, you don't just use a cleaner and scrape it off. It's getting to breaking down the walls and rebuilding from the inside out. That's not the best analogy, but I always think of it as a house and rebuilding from the bottom up. So first, I keep saying this over and over again because it so matters. If you are stuck in sympathetic dominance, you're stuck in survival mode. Connect that with cell danger response theory. The mitochondria go on cell danger or low battery mode as your cell phone. If the nervous system is stuck in sympathetic dominance, we do not heal. We don't have the ability to control inflammation because that's the role of the vagus nerve and acetylcholine and controlling inflammation and controlling digestion and everything downstream, being in that parasympathetic state, being resilient, my word of the year. We need to free the nervous system. Remember, the nervous system is the wiring. So if the wiring is fried, why we have to rebuild the house, we have to start with the wiring because nothing else will flow well. When the nervous system is stuck in threat, in survival mode, keep in mind the blood shunts away from digestion. So if you try eating when you're racing or you're working out or you're stressed out and you just don't digest your food well, you have it come back up or you have bloating, distension. What about bile secretion levels? Did you know they drop? Gut motility. If you're constipated, you just don't have good elimination. your lymph is stagnant. That lymph flow is needed to be in parasympathetic state and movement and breath work. And the blood sugar can swing up and down. So at a cellular level, this is the body saying, before we open the dam, we need to stabilize and get the wiring set. So this isn't soft work. This isn't a supplement you take. This is why, yes, there's vagal nerve devices out there, but I want you to understand you have to be ready to do the work on creating your future you blueprint. When we work on this flow foundation, there isn't a supplement for it. There are supplements to help the nutrients, the cofactors, and proper digestion, get the nutrients from what we need. And I want you to understand why you have to be on a scale 1 to 10 on motivation is a 10. You need to be a 10 because it takes work. And working on the nervous system is something you have to do consistently and be committed to it. So understand the role of the nervous system, and we'll get into the role of the lymph and the bile and blood flow. So if we're not feeling safe, the body's stuck in survival mode, there's not any exits open. And this is why you can't hack healing. You have to retrain safety first. Get therapy. Get some friends to talk to. Work on nervous system regulation. Because then we can go work on opening up the exit. So if we're working on preparing the body for any protocols, we want to open flow up. But before we say break the dam, we need to create more flow. We need to make sure everything's open. We need to open the exit. But understand a big misconception is that you do not need to perfect bile flow to establish basic motility. Because what I'm learning more and more from working with so many clients in this chronic stress mode, because those are my avatar clients, are people similar to me, high performers, trying to do everything and fit it all in one day and do everything to the extreme, that they're in chronic stress mode, which I'm learning now is more that sympathetic dominance. And motility is driven by the enteric nervous system, parasympathetic signaling, rhythm and consistency. And this is a mechanical movement, not talking about detoxification phase 1, 2, and 3. Before anything else we do, the colon must have movement. The stools, talking about your poop, look at the Bristol stool chart. But we need to get regular pooping and complete evacuation of your colon. Why? Because if there's no exit, everything we do in our body is recirculating those toxins, those used hormones. Motility opens the door up. It does not carry the trash yet. So that's why we have to find safety and work on basic motility, because the nervous system needs to be rewired in order to us to feel safe so we can go poop, basically. You can't poop when you're stressed out, right? Once safety and basic motility are established, then we are able to support lymph flow. And I've talked many episodes on this on the rabbit hole, but putting this all together is that the lymph collects the waste. The lymph happens cleaning up the waste before liver detoxification. So lymph is going around collecting cellular waste. It picks up inflammatory debris, it's gathering immune products, it's draining interstitial fluid, but the lymph, remember, doesn't have a pump. And it moves through breathing, muscle contraction, hydrated fascia, nervous system tone. And the important distinction is that lymph isn't our detoxification. This is happening before, right? So order of operations. The lymph is a transporter. It's moving, it's going around doing kind of sweeping, picking everything up. And then the lymph goes into venous circulation, venous, back up to the heart, then to the liver. This is when we talk about bile. So then we move to liver, phase 1, detox processing. So the liver is the sorting center. When the lymph delivers the waste, it delivers it, brings it to King Liver, and it says, liver, I've brought you toxins, I brought you hormones, I brought you some inflammatory products. And King Liver begins phase 1 detoxification. Brings all of its helpers. Phase 1, different categories, modifies toxins. They're going to make them more water soluble, and they're going to help make them temporarily more reactive. This is not elimination yet. The phase 1 team is working on processing. And this is where a lot of people get into trouble. Because if phase 1 is stimulated without bile, without motility, without any drainage, symptoms will explode. So this is why I would say order of operations. Phase 2 is where bile does matter. Bile is binding to the toxins. Bile binds to hormone metabolites. Bile binds to histamine. It neutralizes phase 1 byproducts. Bile packages the waste to exit. Think of bile as the packaging and the transport system. Bile is produced by the liver. Bile is stored in the gallbladder. If you did not get it removed, then we have a problem. And then bile is released into the small intestine with the right signaling. And that goes back to signaling, having enough stomach acid. And actually before that, we need to have that vagus nerve to stimulate stomach acid to be released, to stimulate CCK to release bile, and the pancreas to release enzymes. So bile is released in the small intestine with the right signaling, the right order of operations, and then it's mixed with fats and it's carried through the gut. But if we don't have any bile or enough bile or moving bile, we don't have a safe exit. And this is how the river becomes a swamp. Now, and only now does pooping out the toxins truly happen. So if we talk about colon elimination, the true drainage, this only happens if the right order of operation. Remember, once we have the waste is collected through the lymph that went around and cleaned up, picked up everything, delivered it to King Liver, and the king had his team of phase 1 team process all those. And then we've got team in phase 2 that's packaging them up with the bile. And then phase 3, we're getting towards elimination. So the phase 2 packaged them up and they're delivering it to the gut. And now we move through motility and eliminating out through the stool. Poop is a final step, not the first. But we need motility to open the door, and we have the bile that's carrying the trash out. This is what we want proper drainage for. And this really determines how you age. Aging isn't just about your years, it's whether your own internal river keeps flowing. When wiring and drainage are supported, we have the mitochondria adapt, hormones are clearly getting the right signals. Inflammation is just resolving itself. The body has this innate intelligence and everybody has a job and works together to create metabolic harmony. So we'll see your recovery improving, you're more resilient. But keep in mind when that flow is blocked, we have systems downshifting, down-regulating, and the capacity shrinks and our performance declines. And guess what? Aging is accelerating. So the future you blueprint is not built later. The future you blueprint is built by you. How well your cells can safely process and clear today. This is why I created the Future You Blueprint and why I'm just creating just one program, one package for clients to simplify it, because I can't do a short program and just tell people here's what to do, come back. it takes time, say 6 months, doing this right 1 month at a time or 2 months on each phase, whatever it takes for you to start to build up from the foundation up. It's not another plan. It's not another push. It's not another stressor. It's not another protocol, but a personalized order of operations based on your own nervous system regulation, your resiliency, your drainage capacity, your own metabolism, your hormones, and your overall stress load, external chronic stress, and your hidden sources of internal chronic stress. So you stop forcing flow, and we need to start building your capacity, because the goal is not to slow your aging process, is to age with strength, with clarity, metabolic flexibility, hormonal resilience, and confidence in your own body. Feel good in your own skin from the inside out at a cellular level. So if you've been living life as a race, as I used to, this is your permission to change the strategy, not the ambition. So we want to think safety before stress, drainage before detox, capacity before flow. I want you to clear the swamp. We need to restore your river and build your future you. So if you're ready to stop guessing and being stuck in that cycle of error, we need to start building your own future you blueprint. Aging is inevitable, but how you age is built one cell, one signal, one decision at a time. I want to go in a little deeper. So that was kind of a summary overview, but I want to go back to the nervous system. When the nervous system is stuck in threat survival mode, sympathetic dominance is what we call it. The body is making one decision. Resources must go towards survival, not maintenance. And everything that supports digestion, detox, repair, long-term health is considered non-essential in that moment. So let's break down exactly how that plays out. I do want to talk about a few misconceptions that I keep finding so many clients struggle with that keeps us high performers stuck. TMI, but just to explain, because we got to talk about poop. You can't poop until your bile flows isn't always true. Your lymph flow comes after detox is not true. Phase 1 detox means we need the binders, antimicrobials, and pushing the liver. Those aren't true. These confuse people, and they actually make you feel worse when you think you're doing all the right things and you're struggling. So there's an order of operations, I would say, for everything. So remember, motility, lymph flow, bile flow, and detox are all interconnected, but they are not happening all at once. There's that hierarchy, and the hierarchy is set by the nervous system. So let's walk through this. It might help. If you're a curious person, I always want to go a little deeper, biologically, clearly understand the order, the correct order, how things work in our body to create the future you blueprint. I wanted to take this to the next level. The master switch, remember, the nervous system. If we're in safety or in survival mode. And I'm saying this again because nothing moves. We can't have flow unless the nervous system says it's okay to do. The nervous system has to say, it's safe, we're okay, let's go back to our job. Everyone's back at work in the right alignment. We create metabolic harmony. But when the nervous system is stuck in threat, survival mode, sympathetic dominance nervous system, everything is offline that should happen normally. The blood is shunned away from digestion, we talked about. The stomach acid drops, bile secretion drops, gut motility slows, your lymph is more stagnant, liver detox, blood sugar. We've got all these problems, right? And we just blame the aging process or just think it's dysfunction. But remember, it's survival physiology. your body's innate intelligence to help you survive. The body does not detox when you're in danger. This is the very first step we need to get your body to do. When safety is restored, we create this parasympathetic tone. The body turns back on that parasympathetic state and allows digestion, allows peristalsis, bile signaling, lymph movement, detox capacity. Always remember, if we're not safe, there's no exit strategy. This is why the nervous system regulation is not soft work. It is a foundation of capacity and takes work from you. When we work on motility, we want to make sure you are pooping correctly. The exit must exist. We must have all the drainage pathways open. Peeing, pooping, sweating, breathing properly. We need all that stuff first. You can and must establish basic gut motility, remember, before deep bile detox, because we want that peristalsis. So we went over all this, right? I want you to understand how we need to put it all together as high performers. That we listen. I don't listen. My goal is never to look at TikTok, but people that are on TikTok and doing all these different social media videos, reels that they see, you start trying all these different protocols. You need to feel safe. Peristalsis is driven by the enteric nervous system. It responds to the parasympathetic signaling. So being constipated isn't about taking all the fiber and stool mover stuff. I want you to start working on your nervous system. It does not require aggressive bile flow yet. It doesn't require all this stuff. It's about mechanical movement, not chemical detoxification. We just need your body to feel safe. And when you know it's safe, you're going to have regular bowel movements with ease, frequency, and full evacuation, completing that process. Your colon rhythm and tone. Motility here is simply opening the door. And you probably, hopefully don't think, I think poop's gross, but it is important. It's hard to do a GI map sample. You have to take a sample of your poop. It is not pretty. It does not smell good, but it's how we get rid of our waste. And we need to understand that the colon is not moving at all. Nothing downstream in our body is going to work well. So just need to address the poop question. Now, remember, the lymph is collecting the garbage before the liver. It brings the garbage to the liver to process. It's a processing plant. Once we feel safe and we have good motility, then we add in flow, the lymph flow, and not forcing it. Can't force things. It doesn't work, right? You already know that. The lymph's job is to collect that cellular waste. We went over how it picks up the inflammatory debris. It's immune byproducts. It's draining interstitial fluid. It has this important distinction we went over. Lymph does not detox. It's transporting. And it moves with your breath. It moves with muscle contractions. So that's why we do the rebounder, the power plate, the vibration plates. We do nasal deep breathing, diaphragm breathing, move that breath into that rib cage and have that expansion. That is helping the lymph move. And then we talked to Deanna Hansen, which I'm doing her block therapy training, is on my list to do. And I have her blocks to help hydrate the fascia and improve parasympathetic tone, helps the lymph move. So understanding the lymph goes into circulation to the veins, up to the heart, and then to the liver. And we want to know, all right, did that happen? And if it's not happening, that's kind of where I got into this lymph flow. Is my mom and friends, everyone's got kidney issues and edema and having this swelling in their knees and their feet. And I started to look at, all right, none of these people are moving anymore. They sit so much and they're not breathing. Everyone's mouth breathing. And we need to look at, yes, I worked out this morning, but are you sitting down all day? Are you mouth breathing when you're working and you're stressed out? Are you moving every hour and getting up, which I need to do after this video? That we need to remember, lymph does not move as the blood. There's not a heart for the lymphatic system. There's no pump, low pressure, one-way valves. It means the lymph can only move when the environment around it changes. And that environment is controlled by 4 things. As I went through, the breathing, the diaphragm is the primary lymph pump. And we'll talk about the calf, but deep diaphragmatic breath work is not about relaxation. It's about pressure gradients. And when you inhale deeply through your nose, the diaphragm, you can feel descends and the intra-abdominal pressure increases. And that helps the intrathoracic pressure decreasing. This pressure change I'm learning about literally pulls lymph upward through the thoracic duct, the main lymph highway that drains 75% of your lymph back into circulation. So breathing in, so many people don't do that. And when your breathing is shallow, we have that stress breathing, the diaphragm barely moves. The pressure gradient flattens and the lymph stalls. This is why chronic stress, chest breathing, breath holding creates puffiness, head pressure, breast tenderness, inflammatory congestion. No diaphragm movement, we don't have lymph movement. And this is why breath work is really essential part of our foundation before we start detoxing. Now, the calf I talked about is kind of the heart for the cardiovascular system. We need that muscle contraction, and that movement squeezes lymph forward. The lymph vessels run through the muscle and the connective tissue and the fascia. And every time the muscle contracts, it compresses nearby lymph vessels. And the lymph is pushed forward through one-way valves. This is the muscle pump. Now, intensity is not required. Rhythm matters more than the load. So walking, arm swing, spinal rotation, gentle rebounding are far more lymph effective than hard training when drainage is impaired. So when high performers get stuck, we're sitting long hours, we have static posture, overtraining without any recovery, the muscles either don't move or they're so tense, they restrict flow. And that's why I'm really focusing on creating safety, creating flow with my protocols. Tight muscles trap your lymph. So think if you're tight in your traps, your neck, you're not breathing, rhythmic movement frees it. So looking at what we can do, we figure that out together. Now, Deanna Hansen's program, the block therapy, really teaches us how to hydrate your fascia because lymph flows through the extracellular matrix. And part of this is what no one teaches us, and I started figuring this out, the connection of the lymph and the fascia. Lymph doesn't move in vessels, it moves through fascia. And the connective tissue matrix that surrounds every muscle, every organ, our nerves, and our cells. It's crazy. Our body's fascinating. Fascia is actually designed to be elastic, hydrated, and gel-like. When the fascia is hydrated, interstitial fluid moves, and the waste diffuses toward lymph vessels, and immune signals clear efficiently. But when the fascia is dehydrated or inflamed, which I'm finding this with people all the time, especially my parents or my mom and her friends, the tissues get stiff and lymph becomes trapped and waste accumulates locally. So dehydrated fascia is created from chronic stress, under hydration, low mineral intake, inflammation, and overtraining. So this is why water alone doesn't fix lymph. You just don't drink more water to hydrate the fascia. You need minerals in that water, and gentle tissue work can help. But the lymph cannot flow through dry tissue. Hydration here is structural, not drinking more water. So listen to my episode with Deanna. I just put it up on the YouTube channel, but super fascinating to me. Connect all this together. Metabolic harmony. We have this orchestra. All the players have a role and they all need to do their part. Parasympathetic tone, of course, impacts the lymph because the lymph only moves when the body feels safe. Isn't that interesting? How the vagus nerve is the parasympathetic tone, the vagus tone. This is a master control. Lymph flow is a parasympathetic dominant process. When the nervous system is in threat survival mode, our breathing, if you realize, pay attention, your breathing becomes shallow. The muscles stay tense and your fascia tightens up and digestion shuts down when the nervous system is in threat. Everything the lymph needs to flow is stopping. From a survival standpoint, this makes sense, right? If the lymph movement is slow, the immune cleanup is long-term, survival is intermediate, the body pauses lymph flow on purpose. Everything is shut down if we are in danger. The cell danger response theory makes sense. What the parasympathetic tone allows us to do, deep breathing, rhythmic movement, tissue relaxation, fluid exchange, immune resolution. The body will not drain waste if it thinks it's in danger. And this is why the lymph being stagnant is often a stress signal, not a toxin problem. So if we look at this together, it's always this aha moment for me. Lymph moves only when the other four are present. Breathing, because that creates pressure gradients. Muscle contraction physically pushes the lymph. Hydrated fascia allows fluid movement. And parasympathetic tone gives us permission. Miss one, your flow slows down. Miss another one of those, congestion is building up. And 3 of those missing, you have symptoms appearing. This is why detox without drainage is going to fail. And this is why I feel my high-performing fellow friends and clients struggle most with lymph, and they don't even know it. Because high performers live in sympathetic overdrive. They're breathing shallow, they're sitting for long periods of time, they overtrain without decompression, and they underhydrate with the right mineral blend. So they mobilize waste, but they can't move it out. They're living in a swamp. So remember, lymph does not move because you pushed harder. It moves when the body feels safe enough to let go. The lymph flow is not about effort. It's about the environment. So this is why the Flow Foundation program in my blueprint for clients is the order of operations. It matters. We need to free the nervous system. Then the lymph can move. The liver can process up and package up the toxins to remove them through the bile. The bile can do the packaging and then take it to the colon, and the colon can eliminate. And the mitochondria can adapt. So important. Order of operations. If you're starting to work at the last phase, we're going to probably have problems, side effects, symptoms. So looking again at order of operation, thinking phase 1 or phase 0 is vagus nerve safety. When safety is restored, parasympathetic tone turns back on and allows everything to happen. It's the foundation of capacity. Then we move colon motility. This is where we can make sure we're getting a body to feel safe so it can have proper elimination, regular bowel movements with ease, frequency, completing full evacuation, as I said. Motility here is simply opening the door. If the colon is not moving at all, nothing else downstream is safe, right? So we went over that. And then we went over the lymph flow is collecting the garbage. Once safety and basic motility exists, then we introduce the flow. So we can go pick up the waste and clean up or pick up all the garbage, and it transports the garbage up to the liver And remember, the lymph only moves with the breathing. We talked about the muscle contraction, hydrated fascia, the parasympathetic tone. So where the liver and the bile enter the story next, after the lymph brought the gifts to King Liver, and then it has to sort into phase 1 is the processing phase, not elimination. So we have phase 1 detox. The lymph delivers the trash to the liver, and the liver begins phase 1 detox. This means identifying the toxins, sorting the garbage out, chemically modifying them, and making them temporarily more reactive or water soluble. And this is where we have troubles, because if we don't have bile, if we don't have motility, if we don't have drainage, we get all these symptoms. And phase 1, remember, is processing, not removal. So we don't add in binders and antimicrobials too early, because you can feel awful. Because we need to feel the ability to get phase 2 is the bile needs to be working to package up the toxins, to bind to the hormone metabolites, to bind to histamine, bind to fat soluble waste, and neutralize these phase 1 byproducts. Think of bile as a package and transport system, right? Remember, no bile, we don't have safe exit. And this is where detox becomes the drainage. Bile flow is our other part of flow. We talked about blood flow, lymph flow, and bile flow. We need the river to be flowing. We need to have a river, not the swamp. And reminder that the bile flows, it's produced continuously by the liver. Bile is stored and concentrated in the gallbladder. Bile is released into the small intestine when we eat healthy fats, and it's mixed with waste, with hormones, histamines, and toxins, and then it's carried through the gut and out through the colon. If bile is thick, sluggish, or insufficient, this is what I keep seeing happen. Estrogen recirculates, histamine recirculates, toxins recirculate, and inflammation is persisting. Not because you're toxic, because your current system is not strong. You're in the swamp. And pooping out the toxins does truly happen when we have all this working together. The waste, remember, is collected by the lymph. It goes up to the liver and it's processed in phase 1, packaged up in phase 2 with the bile, and bile is delivered into the gut and moved with motility eliminated out. Poop is the final step, not the first step. We went over this. Motility opens the door and the bile's carrying the trash out. All right, so let's put it all together. Nervous system regulation, safety first, parasympathetic tone. Give your body permission to feel safe. We want to make sure we have colon motility, basic exit established. We don't start detox yet. And then we want to make sure we have good lymph flow, the garbage is collected, and congestion is reduced. Then we work on liver phase 1. The waste is processed carefully. And then we go to liver phase 2, with the bile is packaging up the waste for exit. The bile flow through the gut needs to be restored with good river flowing so we don't have a swamp. And then eliminated out the other end through the colon. True drainage is achieved. High performers fail without this right order because they often open phase 1 detox too soon. They stimulate bile without having good motility. And they push the lymph without safety and add intensity before the exits are open. So they open the dam before the plumbing is ready. So the results are more symptoms, more inflammation, burnout, and just less capacity. So remember, you do not build capacity by forcing flow. You build capacity by restoring order, the wiring first, exit second, processing third, and movement last. Drainage is earned, flow is expressed, capacity is built. So think about how you are helping your lymph, how you're getting your body to feel safe. That's what we work on together and working on creating this flow foundation, freeing the nervous system, getting the lymph to move, the liver to process, the bile to package up everything, the colon can eliminate, and the mitochondria can adapt. So if you want more information, find me at debbiepotts.net, and I'd love to hear from you and seeing how we can get you feeling your best self. Thanks for listening to the end, and pass this along to someone else who might be struggling getting the results by exercising and eating right and still not getting anywhere that they want. Thanks for taking care of you and being interested and curious in creating your future you blueprint.
Thanks for listening to the Coach Debbie Potts Show. If today's episode sparked a light bulb moment, that's your sign to stop guessing and start building your personalized future you blueprint. You can learn more or book a discovery call at www.debbiepotts.net. Be sure to follow the show on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Coach Debbie Potts. 2 T's. If this episode helped you, please subscribe, rate, and review. It's how we help more people age with strength, energy, and clarity. Until next time, remember, age is inevitable. How you age is not.